Hello everyone, this is Steven from the Even Steven channel. Today, clear my throat. We have a little bit of a comparison video. We're gonna compare my Glock. We got here. My Glock 19 versus the Glock 17. Is there a difference? Is it a big deal? So first we'll open up the boxes. Oh, I'm a little zoomed out more than I thought it was. I could show this at the same time. So, this might be a replacement. I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure when I got that piece. So, we have two guns here. Glock Model 19, Glock Model 17. Both are 9mm, striker-fired, polymer-framed, semi-automatic handguns. They're quite similar. However, this is the compact or the mid-size gun, and this is the full-size gun. So we're going to explore the idea of, is it a big difference or not? So what came with the gun, both guns, they both came with gun locks, they both came with the MOS plates. These are both the MOS variants, so I couldn't have made these two guns any more similar, besides without being the same model. They both came with 3 magazines. They both came with some kind of magazine loader. Notice how these are a little different. Over the years, Glocks just use different variety. I think this is an older one that I picked up as a replacement, and this is the one this came with. Kind of cool. Both literature. These both came with back straps, and I ding the Glock 17. My Glock 19 came with 4 back straps. You know, basically the one without the backstrap at all is considered small, and then you have a medium and a large, and you have the medium with or without the beaver tail, and a large with or without beaver tail. The Glock 17, and I couldn't find it, only came with 2 back straps, either the medium or the large, only with the beaver tail. And this piece right here, this kind of thing that kind of holds it all together, was kind of just smaller. It was just a smaller piece. It wasn't really designed to hold the back strap like this, and I simply couldn't have found. I simply can't find that. Both come with brushes. Both come with pull-through rods, so they are pretty similar in how they're packaged, with the exception of this only coming with 2 back straps, where I feel like it really should have come with 4. Should we get rid of these boxes? I guess so. So we're gonna I guess stay with the idea of having the Glock 19 on the left and the Glock 17 on the right. You see, has my camera. Can I pull down anymore? No, that's it. That's what the table is. Glock 19 versus Glock 17. Let's just take a look at them. If you line them up by the trigger guard, I'm going to show this as best I can on camera. You can see that there is actually a substantial difference in the grip of the guns. And you can see that the grip of the Glock 17 kind of curves more, where the Glock 19 kind of has a little more of an angle to it. A little more of a steeper angle, where the Glock 17 kind of flattens out. And going this way, show that properly, this is about, looking at it and trying to show it as best I can, this is about ½ an inch longer in the slide in the barrel. I don't think it's a full, about ½ an inch. They're falling apart. So we're going to go compare these bottom to top. See, we'll start with the bottom. So we'll start with the magazines. So the standard capacity for the Glock 19 is 15 rounds. Standard capacity for the Glock 17 is 17 rounds. However, these are both reduced capacity magazines for the reduced capacity politicians that run the state of New Jersey. And notice how I talked about how this has kind of a more squared off or more flatter bottom to it compared to the Glock. If you actually line these up, you'll see that the Glock 17 goes forward more. You can see it there as well if I try to line up from the bottom. Now, Glock 17 mags will fit in the Glock 19. But again, you see how that almost curve to it, where the Glock 19 has a little more of a sharper angle, where the Glock 17 kind of flattens out more. is more parallel to the to the floor, to the ground. Interesting. But otherwise, with the exception of that weirdness of the bottom, they are pretty much identical. These are both Gen 5 magazines with the follower, and the Glock 17 holds 17 rounds, the Glock 19 holds 15 rounds. The grip, I'll say the grip of the Glock 19 kind of just feels better in my hand. It's just big enough to fill my hand, and kind of no bigger than it needs to be. So the appeal of the Glock 19 is that it's big enough to handle like a full-size gun. Let's put some stuff on here. I don't know. I want to fill up this space with some stuff. I don't know. This is buckshot. It's even part of that. Go with that. The Glock 19 is big enough to handle like a full-size gun, but small enough to maybe flex into like a concealed carry role. I think it's still a bit thick for a concealed carry gun. These are both 1.2 inches wide, both of them. But there's something about the Glock 19 grip that just does it for me. And when I hold the Glock 17, it just feels like a substantially bigger gun. It doesn't fit my hand as well. I've shot this gun plenty, and I've shown on camera, I've shown targets on camera of me shooting this. I can shoot this gun fine. However, there's something about the Glock 19 grip that just does it for me personally. If someone asked me to mention this, I have large size hands. If I was going to wear mechanics brand gloves, I would buy large size mechanics brand gloves. And just personally, this just seems a little bit too big for me. It doesn't quite fit my hand as well for whatever reason. We're all individuals. If I was a soldier or a police officer and I was just given this gun, hey, this is your gun, I don't care if it fits your hand or not, screw on the back straps. If it still doesn't do it for you, I don't care, this is your gun. But as civilians, we can kind of pick and choose what we want. So I'm going to give the Glock 19 a heads up on ergonomics, and which Glocks aren't super great about that anyway. Although the Gen 5s have gotten better in that regards. They both have the texturing all around. These are both Gen 5 MOS Glocks. The Glock 17 seems to have a little bit more of a pronounced hump there, just a little bit more. I will say that I noticed that it's easier for me to actuate the magazine release on my Glock 19 than on my Glock 17, strangely enough. Somehow, I have to push hard, I have to push deeper on this. It's noticeable when I do this that I had to push much harder on this magazine release, or much deeper on this magazine release, to get the magazine to come out. I don't know. But, they both have the same slide release on both sides of the gun. They both have the same slide serrations in the rear, forward. Both have the MOS cuts. These both have the same True Glow night sights. I put them on both guns. And this one has, I think, a 4-inch barrel, and this one has like a 4.5-inch barrel. Now, I did weigh them. I was interested. I think there was a point where Glock claimed that these two guns weighed the same. And I actually checked Glock's website. They don't say that anymore. But I have the Glock. Let me get. I wrote down. I have the Glock 19 weighing 24.69 ounces. And I have the Glock 17 weighing 25.93 ounces. So about an ounce and a quarter heavier on the Glock 17, which, is that a big deal for most people? Probably not. An ounce and a quarter probably isn't the end of the world. However, I think there was a point where Glock said that the Glock 17 and the Glock 19 weigh the same. And both of those measurements that I had are heavier than what the Glock website says. I guess it's possible if you take off this rail and these back straps, you could save an ounce. 'Cause I think Glock's website said that Glock 19 weighed like 23 ounces, or 23 point something ounces. So there's some discrepancies there. Maybe I took off this and I took off the back strap. Maybe I could get to Glock stated weights. See, the trigger seems any different. Shouldn't. They really should be the same gun. Seems fine. Glock Gen 5 triggers are okay, but not nothing spectacular. They're about the same. And just rack the slides a little bit, see if anything seems noticeably different there. This gun has been shot a lot, so this one seems a little bit smoother. But this gun has been shot substantially more than that gun, so it might just be individual examples of guns. Well, let's take them apart. I was going to put these magazines back. Let's take them apart real quick, see if there's anything jarringly different. And honestly, they really shouldn't be, because they shouldn't be all that different. Take a look at the frames. Let's see, do these... So notice how these lugs, I'm having trouble lining these two up. Okay. Notice how the slide rails here are not spaced the same way. I'm having trouble angling this correctly. But in the back looks more the same. Then as you go forward, you see how things are spaced out. It's a little bit differently. Okay, a little interesting there. And the slides, we got, those look a little more similar. They got the recoil springs. You see if they're sized differently. Should be. Yeah, one's just a little, actually one's substantially shorter than the other. Barrels. Yeah, alright. Alright, I actually have never really done this myself, so I'm kind of looking along with you. But there's nothing groundbreakingly different about these guns. Now, I haven't really shot either of these guns together in a long time. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause for a second. I'm going to take both guns to the range. And maybe I'll do a little bit of side-by-side shooting. I'll shoot them together. Maybe I'll get some test targets together. And I'll see if there's any noticeable difference in the accuracy, which I wouldn't expect, but hey, let's do it. So I'll be back in a minute, and then we'll come talk about this some more. And we're back. Now, it was interesting for me to actually shoot these guns side by side, because I tend not to do that, because they're, they're kind of so similar. I tend not to shoot them at the same time. So it was interesting for me to not only shoot them together, but also really pay attention to how they were shooting. And honestly, I have to say that the Glock 17, while I said, hey, you know what, this grip doesn't quite fit me as well, I don't quite like it. Actually shooting, the grip didn't seem to bother me. And actually shooting this, the fact that it is 1 ounce heavier, maybe, and the fact that it is physically a bigger gun, made it a little easier to manage that recoil, a little easier to get those follow-up shots. Now the Glock 19 is still fine. I still like it a lot. But it was interesting how there was just a little bit more snap in the gun, and the Glock 17 seemed to do a little better as far as just kind of managing recoil and getting good follow-up shots. And while I just before said that the grip didn't quite fit me as well as the Glock 19 does, actually shooting it, the Glock 17 was kind of fine. However, did a couple of 25-yard shots, and I felt that still, as much as I felt like that Glock 17 was shooting better, my groups with the Glock 19 were simply better. So on the left is the Glock 19. This is 25 yards. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 25 yards. This is the Glock 17. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A lot more spread out. In fact, I'm a little surprised. Maybe I was just having an off day. I don't know. But usually I get a little tired than that 25 yards. But this is still combat accurate. This is, you know, however, like the size of my hand, 2 hands or whatever it is. I'm hitting tripods. I'm trying to do this. However big this target is, it looks like it's about 10 yards tall. Sorry, 10 inches tall. That's still combat accurate. Another target. This is Glock 19, 25 yards. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I knew I pulled one off to the left when I was shooting. So I only have 4 on here. It's a little bit tighter, but still, it's a little bit tighter than this. Now that's a little better. So that's Glock 17 now. So this is Glock 19, Glock 17, 25 yards. That's a little bit better. Maybe if I worked on that over an extended period of time, I could tighten these up. Because again, that was my first 25-yard shot, the Glock 17, and that's my second. So that's tightening up a little bit. That's a little more what I was expecting. But I would say that while I thought I was shooting the Glock 17 better, because it seemed like I was managing the recoil a little bit better and the follow-up shots came a little faster, I actually shot the Glock 19 better. So that kind of surprised me. I was getting ready to give the Glock 17 the nod there. However, it might just be because I'm very accustomed to the Glock 19. I've had this one for several years. I owned one before. I've simply owned it longer than I've owned the Glock 17. I meant the Glock 19 if I misspoke there. I've owned this Glock 19 for a long time, and it's possible I'm just more accustomed to it. So that kind of surprised me, to be honest. I was expecting, like, Glock 19 is better. So are there any conclusions we can draw from this? Well, there's a lot of factors that go into certain things like this. You know, the individual shooter, individual guns, individual examples of guns. And I was before I started this video, I was ready to say, "Oh, Glock 19 is better. You don't need it. You know, you don't need you don't need the extra sight. You don't need a gun this big." I was ready to say the Glock 19 is just perfectly fine. However, after shooting them side by side, I'm kind of surprised, and I guess that's why you actually do something. You do something to know it. And my final conclusions are a little more inconclusive. And I think what it comes down to with the Glock 19 and the Glock 17, and what size gun in general you want, it really depends on what you want to do. You know, if you could only have one gun that had to flex into a bunch of different roles, like home defense, concealed carry, range gun, you know, a Glock 19 might be a better all-around gun. But if you wanted something specific for competition or home defense, and you had other guns to go along with it in your inventory, then maybe a Glock 17 would be a better choice. Or maybe you have extra large hands. You know, even with my large size hands, my hands just barely. You know, with the Glock 19, it was a lot more exaggerated. The Glock 19, my hand is basically extending over the frame, just barely. And even with the Glock 17, there isn't a whole lot of space here. So it really might depend on your hand size, your preference, and exactly what you want to do with the gun. And I guess that's about it. It really depends on what you want and what fits you best. Which, that really shouldn't be a surprise. And at this point, I don't think I have anything else to add to the conversation. Glock 19 versus Glock 17, Glock 17 versus Glock 19. It's really about what you want to do with it and what gun seems to fit you best. So if you have the opportunity, try to shoot both. If you have the opportunity to shoot both and then see which one best fits you. So this will be Steven from the Even Steven channel. Please do all that like, sharing, and subscribing. I will see you next time. Thank you and goodbye.